Estás a punto de entrar en La Quimera. Un podcast para descubrir las tendencias del cine del presente. En cada episodio, conversamos con destacados cineastas contemporáneos de la mano de Miquel Escudero. La Quimera. ¿Entras?
Bienvenidos a La Quimera, un espacio para la reflexión cinematográfica. Soy Miquel Escudero y hoy conversamos con Kelly Reichardt.
El público de España la conoció gracias al éxito de First Cow, un western lleno de emoción y de exquisita factura técnica que encandiló al público. Lleva más de 20 años proponiendo hermosos relatos intimistas al tiempo que invita a releer la historia de su país desde una visión profundamente feminista. Su anterior western, Meek's Cutoff, está considerada una de las más importantes películas de la segunda década del nuevo siglo, y Certain Women, película episódica de 2016, es una de las grandes revisiones de los personajes femeninos que ha dado el cine contemporáneo. Empeñada en no sobresalir, montadora de sus propias películas, interesada en escrutar la historia de su país desde una mirada crítica y con una visión muy particular del arte, puede que esta mujer nacida en Miami en la década de los 60 sea uno de los grandes cineastas del presente.
Superamos las fronteras del espacio y nos encontramos con Kelly Reichardt, una de las cineastas más importantes del cine independiente estadounidense. ¿Acaso puede que la más importante? Welcome to La Quimera. Very nice to see you. Kelly, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. La Quimera, it's similar to Alice's film. Is that not pronounced the same way, La Quimera?
Exactly, it's pronounced the same way, but it's set in Spanish and here it's in Italian.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for being with us. We are in Barcelona. Where are you today, Kelly?
I'm in Portland, Oregon. Yeah.
Thank you. That's great. That's wonderful to be with you. I wanted to ask you to begin you asking about if you remember the first time that you watched a film as a child, if it was at home or you remember if it was a movie theater. You remember that moment?
I don't know if I don't have a great memory. I don't know if I remember the first, do remember a film that made an impression on me was on television. I was at my grandmother's house and I saw Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And I think it made such an impression on me because I had never seen the beach in black and white before. And I grew up in Miami and was, and I see something about seeing the ocean in black and white really stuck in my head. But that is an early film that I remember as a kid. Yeah.
And you remember if you talked about it with somebody from your family or some friends?
No, I didn't grow up in a art family. My dad used to take us to see the Pink Panther movies. And, I saw the movies at drive-ins that kids see, Herbie the Love Bug. But I didn't grow up in an environment of analyzing film or, my family's not an art family in any way. Though my dad, I guess, listened to jazz a lot. That was maybe the one thing.
Which is something which is very beautiful when we listen to the sound of the mastermind, the soundtrack, which is really wonderful.
Rob Mazurek, who composed the music. And I had known his work from a band called the Chicago Underground with the percussionist Chad Taylor. And so, I was lucky enough that Rob composed the music for the film.
And you remember when was the first moment when you wanted to create your own images, or you began writing about cinema, or if there was a moment in which you thought that you wanted to be a filmmaker?
Yeah, I feel like nothing's in my life's really been a moment. It's everything's been more of a longer process. I was very into still photography when I was a kid, and my father was a crime scene photographer, and so he got me I used to use his camera, a reflex camera, and then he got me a Pentax K1000. This is about sixth grade. And he would give me film that was expired from the crime lab. And so I always had a lot of film, and I took a photography class. And I entered some local photography contest. And so I was very into photography, and I had a feeling of wanting to get out of Miami, that there were things happening in other places that were not. I didn't know anyone that was interested really in art when I was a kid. And I didn't really know what any of it looked like. It was just an idea. And this friend moved to town. I didn't know her. She was a Swedish girl. She moved to Miami, and it was like she was from Mars, and she turned me on to David Bowie. And she worked, Christo and his wife came to Miami to wrap the islands in Biscayne Bay. I forget what year that was. Probably around 1981 or 80. It's probably around 81, or somewhere between 80 and 82. And my friend Annika, she worked on the wrapping of the islands, and she took me to the parties afterwards with the crew. And I remember this made a big impression on me, like, oh, this group of people from New York, they're doing an art project together, and they're all working so hard to do this thing that they're also invested in. And I thought, wow, okay, yeah. And then Annika moved to New York, and we all kind of followed her.
And then when I'm very interested about your interest in your characters, and how you began to become interested in your characters, and how did you think at the beginning, how would you get closer to them, how you would get close to them in order to write about them?
Well, it's been different with every film. Often I've been working with my friend Jonathan Raymond, the writer Jonathan Raymond, and he, and that's just a lot of coffees and gossip and hanging out. Like hanging out, such an important part of film, of any kind of art making, I think. And this endless kind of analyzing people and ourselves, and so anyway, but this was a little different mastermind because I was working more on my own. But like everything, it's a process of thinking about people with different traits. I mean, I'm sure in this film there's lots of influences from movies I've seen over the decades and been teaching over the decades, and then also just articles you read. I always still like to find hard copies of stuff and cut things out. I mean, some of this for the mastermind came from reading about, it was the 50th year anniversary of a art heist in really a snatch and grab of paintings in a small town in Massachusetts, Worcester, Massachusetts. And these 4 teenagers got caught up in this little robbery that was going on. And I thought, oh, that's really intriguing. And that was kind of a jumping off point. But I had been saving clippings from newspapers of art heists for really a very long time. And so it kind of became a bit of a salad of these different characters. And then it just kind of formed into my own guy. And then Josh O'Connor brings what Josh O'Connor brings, which is, a lot. And then also I think characters get built aside from like clothes, and you put them in their setting, and also from the characters they're playing against, like who he is when he's with the cops and who he is with Alana, or who he is with John Magaro or Gabby Hoffman, So it's you're all kind of discovering something as it's in the process of shooting also.
And also, I think there's something which is very, very interesting. It's about the complexity of the characters and all the things that we can guess about them, but we never really know. There's something which is always lying under, like a subterranean water. It's something which I think which is very, very special.
Oh, thanks. I think there is room to project a lot onto these characters, especially the Mooney character in the mastermind. Like in a lot of ways, he doesn't have that much of an inner self. And so he's got this blankness to him that we can project onto according to how we see what he's doing,
I was born in 1962 at Coral Gables Hospital, located on the University of Miami campus. My parents like to brag that their baby was so smart that she was already in college the day she was born. I was given the name Cozy after my father's favorite jazz drummer, Cozy Cole. My mother left us when I was 10. My father always liked to say that she ran away to join the circus. I like to think of her there in a sequin cape, flying through the air without a single net to catch her fall.
And and when you were thinking about the space and the distance that you are going to take to your characters, I am thinking about, for example, I wanted to ask you about River of Grass when you began, when it was your first feature, and how was your first decision as a filmmaker in the place in which you were going to place the camera, and the moment in which you were deciding how you were going to portray these characters?
Well, that was very difficult. For a long time, it was quite difficult because, I made River of Grass in I think we shot it in 93 or 94. And it was not, film sets were not friendly environments for women at the time. And, your DP shows up and he owns the camera, and the people working for him are going to get their next job from him. And even the women on the set very much want to hear from the man on the set. And I had to do a lot of fighting over the years about where I wanted the camera. And a lot of DPs would think, go work with the actors. Like, I'll deal with the camera. And that is not, my interest was always like, now I'm interested in the actors, obviously, but I'm interested in, visual storytelling and where the camera's going to be. So River was like a big, it was the first time I really experienced what sexism was. And I took it very personally. It was quite fun and kind of heartbreaking, but also realized that I had to really learn my lenses and be able to super articulate what I wanted, and that I couldn't have the sort of privilege of finding things on the set, that I had to go be in a more knowing way or pretend to be in a knowing way. And this continued really until the right person for me, and finding the right cinematographer in life is maybe like finding the right mate. It's such an intense relationship. And on the when I was making Meek's I had the similar problems with the cinematographer, and halfway through, whatever, a week or two into it, I just couldn't stand it anymore, and swapped out. And Chris Blauvelt came, and I met him on the way to set at like 5 a.m, driving through the desert. And the first thing is, we got out of the car, and I'm all ready with my dukes up, ready for the daily fight of where the camera goes. And Chris turned to me and said, "Where do you want the camera?" And it was like the most lovely thing of my life, And it's so, finding a collaborator like Chris Blauvelt is one of the most beautiful things in my world of filmmaking. And and so we've been now collaborating for a really long time. And so it's now, the process is very different also because I edit. And so, I'm always talking to Chris about where the cut is and thinking about that kind of, not exactly, where the cut is, but thinking of those things, shooting, you learn a lot about shooting when you're editing. And anyway, not to go on and on about it, but just to say I would say the cinematographer relationship and the assistant director relationship, which I work with Chris Carroll, who I've made many, many films with. Me and the two Chris's, that's a very, those are really important relationships and very, as to what gets on the screen,
I think it's something which is very, very beautiful in your films, that is, you are always looking for a space for your characters in order to be at ease, in order to be comfortable and to find a certain relief. And I think this is why I wanted to ask you about the choice of spaces, the choice of where, when you are thinking about the places in which you are going to film your characters, how is it, if it's something that is during the writing process or something which you are working afterwards?
I think filmmaking is a series of building things and tearing them apart and rebuilding them and tearing them apart. So while you're writing, I'm thinking of what the film's going to look like, and I start building these books that I want to share with the production designer or the costume designer or Chris Blauvelt. And I'm working on that by myself, and that's from found images. It might take stills from different movies. I'm trying to find things that I can just begin a visual conversation, and then start scouting, and then you start dealing with real locations, and your view has to switch a bit. You have to accommodate what's real, and then in that stage of transitioning from what's in my head to the physical space, I will spend time alone in those spaces, and I'll spend time with Chris Blauvelt in those spaces, and he'll sit over in the corner and work on his computer, and I'm go around with my viewfinder, and we spend hours like this, and he gives me a lot of space, a giant gift, and then we go through it together, and we solve problems, and we figure out connective tissue, or he figures out how we'll actually do it. And but he always wants to get to where I want to get to and make it better. And then bring Chris Carroll into the mix, and we take him through it, And so by the time the actors arrive and we're actually shooting, because I don't really work with the actors till they're there. Chris Blauvelt has a shot list, but I never want to look at it anymore. At that point, I know by heart what we're supposed to be doing, and I want to be open to what, when I'm blocking with the actors, what is going to happen, because there's live people in the space, or there's animals, or, see what the day brings, the weather. And so, and then, you get in the editing room and you say, okay, I'm starting from scratch. This is the film I'm making now. This is the film I shot, the film I'm making. So it evolves, and one thing I've learned as I get older is like I used to get really particular about how I wanted to shoot things. And then when I got to the physical space, you're scouting to try to find what you want.
Exactly.
But you have to make concessions at a point.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes it's better than you expected, but still it's going to change it's not going to be exactly what you imagined. And you have to be able to not be stuck to those first ideas. You have to be able to be nimble. And, that's gotten easier with age, but I could get really stuck early on. Like I got too tied to my early ideas.
This is because you were thinking also from the point of view as an editor. It's because you were thinking about how the images were going to match.
Or maybe when you're, just from age, like when you're younger, you want to have, you want to know things because it makes you more secure. And, as you get older, you can realize like, okay. And also because, what I was talking about before, if a guy goes on set and he's making it up, people go, oh my God, what a genius. It's like making it up. But if a woman goes on set and doesn't know what she's doing, it's like she doesn't know what she's doing and somebody will come in with an answer, but now I'm old, so age kind of trumps that. And I work with a lot of the same people over and over again who are generous enough to give me the space if I have to figure something out in the moment. And for example, we don't have, in Mastermind, there are a lot of car shots. And, you're figuring it out what you want it to look like, but you don't have the cars yet. And then eventually you get the cars, but they're in a garage and you're making up your shots. And it's not till I'm there with the crew and the actors that I actually have the cars on the location. And, that changes things. And my least favorite thing is having to figure stuff out with a whole crew waiting because I hate to waste people's time. But now there is this kind of generosity of space that I can get on a set that allows me to figure some things out. And a lot of that is because the cinematographer sets the tone on a movie very often. And Chris's generosity, and both Chris's generosity bleeds out into the set. But you're still in a time crunch. You still have to move fast. So, I mean, in a lot of, some things are made easier because I work with a lot of the same people over and over again. So it's not a new conversation. We're like in it with each other already. I've had the same producers, Neil and Anish, since Old Joy.
And I mean, and now you feel, because you are working with them and you feel that, they help you to find time in order to work or to find more time in order to think, because I think it's absolutely precious what you are saying, because I think it's so important to have the time to think in a set, and and it's true. I was thinking when that with men, there's always lots of time. They think they're geniuses because they are thinking, having ideas, like being so inspired. And I was thinking about some friends, filmmakers who are women, and they have also told me about that.
Yeah, but it's yeah, I mean, and also it helps to have a little bit more money because money buys you time, and we used to shoot like 7 days a week. And if you're shooting 7 days a week, you never have a day to do your laundry, but you never have a day to think about what you're doing. And now the difference between shooting a 6-day week or a 7-day week and shooting a 5-day week is really huge, because having time to think as you're going. So on the day the down day of shooting, Chris and I can, or the two Chris can go be on a set or be on a location, or I can go be there by myself. And that's that's huge, you know, just to be with your images and rethink, like, what did I never go back and look at footage that we've shot. I never do that but I like to have a minute to think. And so that's, you know, another thing that is a little more expensive, and you don't always have that privilege in the beginning.
And how is for you regarding that, working with the actors when you are casting, when you are thinking about which actor is going to incarnate the character that you have in mind, and just you have been working with same actors in different films, and I think it's very interesting. But I wanted to ask you how is for you to find the right actor to incarnate the character.
Well, that's like everything. I think casting's like 50% of and I work with, for a long time, I've worked with Gail Keller, a casting director in New York. And then we partnered up for Mastermind with these two women, Lynn and Becca, in Cincinnati, and they did the local casting. So I'm sort of getting readings from local and from New York and LA through Gail. And Gail and I worked together for a long time. It's a really long process. And she's a very dogged person, and she's brave about putting things in front of me that I might shoot down, and still the next day she'll put something else new in front of me that I might really like. And so it's really like, for example, in First Cow, the Orion Lee, who plays King Lou, I mean, she really searched the globe for that part. And there were readings. I mean, I think Orion did like 3 or 4 readings for but it was really her investigative work, her tenacity that helped us, how we found Orion. And but then, working again with people like Magaro and Gabby Hoffman, who's in Mastermind. I've been trying to work with her forever, but our schedules never worked out. Obviously, I've worked with Michelle a ton, and with her too, it's like an ongoing conversation, though there'll sometimes be years between us working together, and she is always sharpening her skills because she's worked so much and she challenges herself so much. And so the next Michelle version I work with will, she just keeps amazing me. And then I had the great thing of being able to work with Josh O'Connor, and what a wonderful person to work with. And very, it was great. And Hope Davis and Bill Camp and Alana. I mean, there was just, and finding these kids that are in the movie. It's, you go location scouting all day, and then you come home and watch tapes at night, and your movie starts to take shape. Yeah.
And how is it for you when you are thinking about all the nuance of your character and all the movements and all the small gestures and all the things which are almost invisible things that they do regarding your characters? How is it that you work? Because I think it's beautiful. It's almost like a documentary also of the people incarnating the characters. There's something which I think is very, very strong.
Well, I think that I'm just trying to give people space and actors space and things to do that, like cars and animals or children or a task that, you have to physically do. I think it keeps people very in the moment of what they have to do. And so it's maybe less performative than if you were just sitting and having, not that there's not that too, but so I mean, nothing like an animal to keep someone in the moment. But I just am trying to give people space to let things happen. But, I mean, like Josh is driving, he's got kids in the car, he's got a lot going on. And he, these are old 50-year-old cars and stuff, and so he has a lot on his plate, and I think it really I don't know. I mean, we don't really rehearse, so I don't really know. Like, we run through things right before we shoot and block things out. But I'm not really seeing the actors do their thing and interact with each other and respond to each other till we're filming. So it's unfolding before all of us. There's a spontaneity to that. So a lot of things are like everything that's in the frame and where the camera goes, all these things that are super planned. But then there's this element that is completely spontaneous that's happening in this like kind of framework you've set up for it. And that's exciting, that's like watching it as it happens and trying to maybe, push it in the right direction. And then sometimes it's just like, my job is just to stay out of the way. Yeah.
Y ahora abrimos un paréntesis para dar paso a Beatrice Fiorentino y su análisis de las tendencias del cine actual.
Temporada de premios. La endogamia del cine.
La temporada de premios es desde siempre el momento en que la industria del cine se mira al espejo y decide cómo quiere autorrepresentarse. No premia solo películas, sino equilibrios, alianzas, relatos de sí misma. Es una maquinaria que moviliza departamentos de prensa, plataformas, distribuidoras, lobbies culturales, sensibilidades nacionales y agendas políticas. Los premios casi nunca reflejan lo mejor del año. Se ofrecen como la imagen que el cine quiere proyectar en un momento histórico concreto. Por eso, las cabeceras internacionales, de Variety a Los Angeles Times, insisten desde hace años en que la temporada de premios sea más un termómetro industrial que un canon artístico. Virtudes, claro, las hay. Los premios iluminan obras que quedarían enterradas en la sobreproducción global. Construyen carreras, salvan películas frágiles, dan visibilidad a historias que difícilmente encontrarían una distribución. Pero sus límites son estructurales. El primero es evidente, la autocontemplación. La mayoría de los premios funcionan como un ecosistema cerrado donde compiten aquellas películas que pueden costear una campaña, no necesariamente los que la merecen. Otro límite, más profundo, tiene que ver con la capacidad de los premios de interpretar el presente. Los Oscar de los últimos años oscilan entre el impulso de renovar su imaginario, más diversidad, más representación, más reparación simbólica, y la pulsión conservadora de una industria que teme el riesgo. Los Globos de Oro, tras el escándalo de la HFPA de 2023, cuando se destaparon acusaciones de falta de diversidad, conflictos de interés y prácticas opacas en la Asociación de la Prensa Extranjera de Hollywood, se han convertido en un test de credibilidad. ¿Siguen marcando conversación o son ya un indicador del desconcierto? En España y en otros países de Europa, el escenario no es muy distinto. Los Goya son a la vez un rito nacional y un campo de fricción. Votan quienes producen, financian, distribuyen o promueven. El riesgo no es la corrupción, sino la autorreferencialidad. El sistema tiende a reconocer aquello que ya conoce. Las películas de casa entran con naturalidad. Las que desestabilizan la imagen dominante quedan a menudo en posiciones laterales o directamente incómodas. Algunos episodios recientes lo han dejado en evidencia. La exclusión incomprensible de Pacifiction, obra mayor celebrada por la crítica mundial y dirigida por un cineasta español, reveló hasta qué punto el sistema puede cerrarse sobre sí mismo, priorizando dinámicas internas por encima del valor artístico. Fue un síntoma claro de cómo los Goya premian lo familiar, lo que consolida su propio imaginario, más que aquello que lo desafía. Aquí entra también el caso emblemático de La estrella azul. La película de Javier Macipe, relato musical celebrado por la crítica y abrazado por el público en festivales internacionales, ha mostrado de manera quirúrgica las grietas del sistema. Su recorrido hacia los Goya ha evidenciado una dificultad estructural: la incapacidad del modelo para reconocer obras que no encajan en los polos clásicos del cine español. La estrella azul no pertenece a ningún bloque. No es cine de autor académico, no es cine industrial, no es cine de plataforma, no es cine identitario. Es un film libre. Y precisamente por eso corre el riesgo de quedar relegado en un contexto que premia, sobre todo, aquello que confirma su propia imagen, desde las grandes productoras madrileñas hasta las ramificaciones regionales que orbitan alrededor de los mismos nombres. ¿Qué revela este caso? Que la relación entre premios y cine se ha convertido en un circuito que se alimenta a sí mismo. Los premios no reflejan la vitalidad del cine, sino la vitalidad del sistema que los organiza. Los títulos que funcionan dentro de esa estructura, porque pertenecen a quienes cuentan, porque están respaldados por plataformas, porque son defendidos por la prensa nacional, encuentran una acogida natural. Los demás permanecen al margen, pese a su valor artístico. ¿Hacia dónde vamos? La conversación internacional apunta a dos direcciones. La primera es una exigencia cada vez más fuerte de transparencia. ¿Quién vota? ¿Con qué criterios? ¿Con qué relaciones previas? La segunda es más radical: repensar el sentido mismo de los premios. ¿Tiene sentido seguir hablando de mejor película, mejor dirección, mejor interpretación en un sistema que fragmenta en 1000 realidades? Festivales, plataformas, microproducciones territoriales, modelos híbridos. ¿No será el momento de imaginar premios menos jerárquicos, menos verticales, menos atados al mercado? La temporada de premios siempre cuenta una sola cosa: ¿quién decide qué importa? Y ese es, por definición, un poder frágil. La pregunta hoy no es quién ganará, sino qué idea de cine estamos validando cada vez que entregamos un premio. Mientras el mecanismo siga siendo endogámico, autocentrado y dependiente de las mismas estructuras productivas, el riesgo será tener premios que celebran el pasado en lugar de orientar el futuro. Por eso quizás haya llegado el momento de pedir a los premios lo mismo que pedimos a las películas: imaginación y el valor de mirar más allá de lo que ya conocemos.
Y retomamos ahora la conversación con Kelly Reichardt para seguir profundizando en su manera de hacer cine.
I wanted to ask you about the sound, the choices of sound that they are going to be surrounding the character. If it's something that it's when you are writing, or is something that it comes after when you are editing. For example, I was thinking about the soundtrack, the jazz soundtrack, if it was something that was already during the writing process, you were thinking about this jazz music was going to be with the characters.
A kind of jazz music, a minimalist sort of free jazz, but not this particular music I didn't have. So I knew, and I'm experimenting with it in the editing room, like a temporary track where music would go. And then Rob was composing a lot of music, and I was deciding where it would go, and I was giving him scenes for him to compose to. And then sometimes you decide you don't need it. I mean, this film has much more music than I usually put in a film. But, some days I'm like, people say, and you're thinking about it, just to say, in terms of all the other sound and the sound design that the movie has. And a lot of those sounds, like I'll keep lists and stuff, but a lot of those sounds you're discovering on the locations. And you're lucky enough to have a sound crew like I did, who was so enthusiastic. I mean, I had these women going out on the weekend just recording extra sounds for me all the time, which is like a big gift when you get in the editing room. So I had this really fantastic sound team that I was lucky enough to work with. Yeah, it's so many things. But then eventually, you're in post and someone says you're doing the sound mix and they say, your time's up, you're out of money, that's it. And you have to make decisions on that day. And it's like something might end up in a certain way that if you had finished a day later, it would be different, that maybe that music wouldn't be there or it would be there. At a point, you just have to say, okay, this is the movie. We're out of money at a time, and they take it away from you, but you could keep screwing around with it forever and changing it. And I'm sure Rob Mazurek is very happy that there was a deadline at some point.
And it's interesting because there's I think the sound helps also to portray the character. I'm thinking now about Wendy and Lucy, about the house sound is also a place for her, and it's a place in which we are silent in order to respect the silence. I mean, I think sound explains something also about her, about how she's feeling. And
I was using, we shot in Portland, and Portland's like a real train town. Many places we shot are like where we shot in Certain Women is surrounded by a train depot. So often when we're shooting, trains is still an American soundtrack. And so John Raymond's short story for Wendy and Lucy was called Train Choir. And I tried to use the trains where I would use score in that film. That was sort of the little experiment in that film. But it's the sounds of commerce basically all around her. It's different for every film, but sound is just so fun, And I have Ben Mercer has been being my editing assistant since Certain Women. And he was, he just, over the years of us working together, a big part of his contribution have been sounds. Like I leave him a list of sounds I want, and he'll go to the ends of the earth to find just such a variety and the right ones. Or sometimes I come in the morning and there's some little sounds put in the film that weren't there the night before, little Easter egg nuggets. And it's very, so I have that's so nice that I have Ben in the edit room with me to work on the sound. And that also is just a long process, The process between like what you're writing in the beginning and you have this idea of what you're going to make, and then you go through this very collaborative period with a lot of different players that, I'm working one-on-one with each person, and then they're working together, costumes, production design, everyone's doing their bit. Then you have the weather comes into it, and so many things. Like I think when Gus Van Sant was making the remake of the Hitchcock film, which one did he remake?
Psycho.
What was it?
Psycho,
right, of course. Gosh. Okay. So he's remaking Psycho shot for shot. And when I read about what that experiment to him was, he was talking about how if you planned everything and you had the same crew and the same actors and you shot it like before lunch or you shot it after lunch, how the scene would be different. Or if you shot it in the morning or the afternoon, like a crew is a film has like this life of its own to it. And so when I get in the editing room, and maybe this is what you're thinking of, to me, I do an assembly per the sort of script. And then, I'm not looking at the script. I just know how I intended it to go together. And I make even if I know a scene's not working and I realize I already know I don't need it, I make myself do one assembly, big fat assembly of how it was intended. And then I leave that behind and I'm like, okay, this is the film I'm making now. There's a film I shot. The film I wrote doesn't matter anymore. That's in the past. And this is the film I'm working on. And then I allow myself to look at what's there. And, it's like whittling a little bit. Take a little off, take out, see if you miss it. If you don't miss it, maybe you don't need it. Funny, Todd Haynes, my friend, always teases me that I edit backwards, that, mostly you're slowly taking things out. And he says, I take everything out and then rebuild things kind of. But whatever it is, you have your methodology. I'm not sure he's right, but maybe I know one film he's thinking of that he's right about that. But it is, he always thinks that but anyway, maybe he might be right. He looks at the rough cuts a lot. So, but the script doesn't matter anymore at that point. If that is maybe to what you're thinking about.
And what I was just thinking about that and wanting to ask you about that, if it's something that it has changed during the years, or if you have found out about your own process for editing.
Well, that thing Todd's talking about, cutting stuff out, too much out at the beginning, I think that might be, there is a part of you, and I see it in my students, where you want to get to where your film is good and you want to take out what's not working. And you just can't wait to get to that point because you'll be able to sleep at night and think, okay, this is working. But as I've gotten older, I really do believe there's something to letting things be crappy for a while and living with things that don't work, so that you kind of, like you're going in your process and it's fine. It's okay to not rush to this end goal because there are things to discover in editing. And, in Walter Murch's book, In the Blink of an Eye, it obviously he's talking about film and working on a steam back, and how in the old days when your film was on reels, whenever you wanted to get to a shot, you had to go through all your footage to get to what you wanted to get to. And thus you became so familiar with everything you had. As when you're cutting digitally, you can easily just tuck something away in a file that you don't necessarily revisit, and can often be gold in that file, and it didn't work in the original way. But as soon as you change one thing, the thing next to it changes, and the thing that was working that was next to that no longer works because the thing next to it changed. And likewise, something that didn't work originally might work now. And so when you're cutting digitally, you do have to make a more concerted effort. Keep in touch with all your footage and not just, make a garbage file or a file you don't want to investigate anymore, like to revisit everything often.
And you take the time to watch all the rushes before beginning the editing, or do you know more or less what rushes would be more interesting?
I don't shoot a ton of film, but I like to watch it all. I kind of like to wade into it and watch stuff, but sometimes I'll start building stuff as I go, but I want to know it all. I want to live with it all and sit with it. I never watch it while I'm shooting. It's just a different head. But
Yes.
when I start cutting, I try to make myself revisit things, and even if it's seen as working, like what are the possibilities for how different it could be? And like you can rework a scene for months and months, I mean, it's fun. I enjoy it. I like editing. There's so much to discover in editing, just with, time and space. That's, and these performances that like can be really different and work in different ways when you cut them with each other. So I mean, it's funny to think on this film, this time last year, we're like halfway through our shooting. That's how fast this film was. And some of that was because, we finished like the day before Thanksgiving, and I started in the editing room the day after Thanksgiving. And I just enjoyed cutting it so much. I never took a day off from it. For better or worse, some people might say that's like a terrible thing to do. But it was also, we shot through the election. And so we were in a bubble, and I didn't really want to come out of the bubble and face the world as it had become. So did bubble for a while. Yeah.
And how was it when you felt that there were some things making sense during the editing process?
It's exciting, but I knew when I was shooting that certain things were, I knew that I couldn't wait to get to the edit room. Like I could see the different performances, the actors working with each other, and I knew it was going to be, a lot of the scenes would be, the car scenes are harder because they're more, they're just more of a struggle. And the heist was actually a little bit harder, but some things like, when you just have good actors doing things, it's just so fun to get in there and see what all the possibilities are. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty rough looking at Josh O'Connor all day, I'll admit. That's tough stuff.
And because, with Josh O'Connor, he's very different with when he's with Alana, when he's with Magaro, and there's all this emotional trip of the character. There's all the things that are going on, and I think it's pretty exciting how we don't really know what's going on, but we know there's something going on.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge for this film, and the thing that scared me the most about it, and you want to be scared about something because, otherwise why bother? But was that there were so many different tones of the film. And I thought, oh my God, here, how am I going to manage all these different tones and, different styles of acting, really? And at some point I realized, this is Josh's problem. This is what he really has to maneuver all this. And he seems to be having fun with it. But the last thing we shot was the scene with Gabby and Josh in the kitchen. That was the last night. And I was like, oh my God, like, how is this gonna, thought the two of them together were so great, and Josh and Magaro and the whole, I loved them all. But I thought, oh my God, how is this scene going to work with like the scene of the cops in the living room, in that tone? And is this can this be one movie? And that was sort of the, and then the other things that are just being revealed to you as, you think like, I'm doing something completely different. And then you just keep seeing yourself in different places. And you're like, some of this stuff was reminding me of my first film, River of Grass. But yeah, it's, that was, that I think was one of the big challenges, and more of a challenge for Josh than anyone. Yeah.
At the same time, I think, which is very beautiful, because even if it's always your personality, there's always lots of variations, and I think of your filmography as a music, as a composition, you know, with all the musics and like a symphony, and even if with the same melodies are always with lots of variations, and I think it's very, very exciting.
Well, thanks. Gosh. Yeah, thanks.
I just wanted to ask you for the last question is how is for you, how there's a story, how is a story for you in order to have the desire in order to make a film?
Well, you know, you get excited by something. I like to have something to work on. I don't really like to wake up in the day and not have a project. So some of it is that. But often when I'm finished a film, John Raymond has, you know, we start having our coffees together, and there's things we want to, there's just things we'd like to get at. And sometimes it starts with like sort of bigger conversation. I mean, in the end, you end up talking about the character and the place you're in and things like that. But in the beginning, sometimes it's just gossip, and sometimes it's, you know, the political situation and just trying. And sometimes it's the big political situations are too much. So, you know, like, for example, Showing Up started, I was in Los Angeles with two friends, and they were going on, they both did ceramics, and they were going on and on about like who's getting more kiln space and coming in at night and getting the best, all these, like the politics of the pottery house. And so I called John and said, oh my God, you know, we gotta dig into this. I mean, I think we both have an attraction to small politics and how like if you can focus in on something like that, it'll usually reverberate into or have some kind of something to do with how bigger systems work, but you don't really have to tackle the bigger system, you know? So it gives you a place to kind of, and I think this is what probably art does for a lot of people, is it gives them a frame for the world, and a frame feels more manageable than just like the whole Megillah that's out there for us to contend with. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I hope you stay well there.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thanks for your nice questions.
Thank you too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Nos despedimos ahora de Kelly Reichardt, una cineasta comprometida con su tiempo.
La Quimera, un podcast producido por el Instituto de Formación e Investigación Cinematográfica con el apoyo del Ministerio de Cultura del Gobierno de España. Descubre a más cineastas contemporáneos escuchándonos en tu plataforma de podcast favorita o en nuestra web podcastlaquimera.com.